Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Want to come to you today with my top 12 nonfiction reads of the year 2024. I know a little bit late, but better late than never, right? So this is the second part of my best of 2024 videos that I was going to put out. And again, just like in the previous video, apologize for the tardiness of it, but again, better late than never, right? So I picked out the top 12 nonfictions. These are in no certain order, but they are what I think are the best books that I read over the entire year. Now, I tried not to, maybe the exception of one book, I tried not to pick multiple books by one author. If I read multiple books by one author, I tried to do the first one, but I did it with one, and I'll explain why, because they go together as part of the reason. So anyway, here we go. Top 12 nonfiction books of 2024. So to kick it off, and I started this, this would have been second quarter Historathon. I think I read most of this over spring break last year. But this is 1491, New Revelations of the Americas Before Columbus by Charles C. Mann. And this was just a wonderful book talking about just what was the culture like, what were the peoples like before Columbus got here. And I thought it did a really good job of showing from North America all the way through South America and talking about all of the different groups and what were those groups like before Europeans invaded the Americas. And just thought it was an excellent book. And this year for Historathon 2025, second quarter, I'm going to read the book that goes with it, 1493. So, after the Columbian Exchange, what happens to the Americas after Columbus is here. And so I'm looking forward to that. But 1491, I do recommend reading that. That was a great book. All right. The next one on the list here is Cold Crematorium, Reporting from the Land of Auschwitz by Joseph Debrazini, I think is how you say it, with an introduction by Jonathan Friedland. And this was a advanced reader's copy that my good friend Peg over at the History Shelf had sent me, that she sent it maybe a couple years ago. She sent it to me. It was new January 2024. So never mind. She sent it last year. Or maybe it was the end of 2023 when she sent it, because she would have gotten it early. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But it was a wonderful book. And I say wonderful, the content was kind of scary because obviously, it's about Auschwitz. It's about the concentration camps. But it was a really good look into, what the life of a person in the concentration camps, what they suffered from. That's what I mean by a wonderful book. I thought the author did a very, very nice job with putting this together. And by the way, this was translated by Paul Ocarvey. Here, I'll put it right there where you can see it. Right there. Not sure how to say his name, but just real fast on the back of this, Joseph Debrazini was a prolific Hungarian language journalist and poet. Arrived in Auschwitz 1944. He had been selected to go left, and his life expectancy would have been approximately 45 minutes had he been selected to go left. And he was one of the lucky ones. And then it just, goes on to talk about, he was one of the lucky ones. So he has to live through the concentration camp and, pretty harrowing experience. Really good look at what life is like in a concentration camp. Okay, so towards the end of last year, I picked up this next book, mainly because, first of all, I'd seen it in my teaching catalogs where they've got different books that you'd buy like a classroom set and you'd read it as a trade book. And I've seen it many times. It's got a companion, or maybe not a companion, but another book that's similar to it called Cod. And this one is Salt, a world history. So it looks at world history and the impact that salt had. But anyway, I saw this in teaching catalogs. I've always wanted it. And then last year, I finally found it during one of my summer escapades of picking up, a bunch of books for book hauls and stuff. And this is by Mark Kurlansky. And I saw last year one of my kids was reading this, and I got real excited about that, and I was like, I need to get mine picked up and read. So that's what I did over Christmas, and this was a really cool look at just the impact that salt has on world history, and it took it from early, the beginnings all the way towards, the modern day and what the salt trade does. And so highly recommend that. I thought that was really good. The narrative flowed really well. So there's another one. There's the third book of the 12. All right, BookTube, I'm back. Sorry about that. We've got snow in our area today, and so we've got a virtual day, and I got all my teacher stuff done early on, so I wouldn't have to do it throughout the day, but I have to be available for kids to get a hold of me and get in contact with me, and so I had to help a kid out with their assignment. So sorry about that, but anyway, I'm back. So, continuing on with what I read last year, my top 12 books. The next one is a Lincoln biography that I had wanted to tackle for a very, very long time. As you can see, I got tons of tabs in there. I love this book. I thought David Herbert Donald did a wonderful job. I would highly recommend this to anyone wanting to read up on Lincoln. This is a book that needs to be in your Lincoln collection on your shelf and available to, dig through. I thought he took a very, very good middle of the road approach to Lincoln. It wasn't, strong one way, strong the other. It's very middle of the road, and he tried to stay away from myth and legend of Lincoln and just stick to the facts. And I thought he did a really good job of that. I buddy read this with my good friend Patrice Jones over at her channel, 2 Minutes on Books. Go check her channel out. Very much worth your time. And of course, Patrice always has really great insight into the books that we have buddy read, and there's been quite a few of them. And so Lincoln, pick that one up. Read that one. It's a good one. The next one was another buddy read with my good friend Patrice over at her channel, 2 Minutes on Books. If I didn't say it before, go check out her channel. So we read Truman. I think we read this early in 2024, and the Lincoln book was late 2024. So Truman by David McCullough, the late David McCullough, the late and great David McCullough. And if you know anything about David McCullough, he's got a lot of biographies and a lot of just histories. They're all about that thick. They're big, big books, but they're so very, very good. And this is exactly, what it says. It goes through the life of Truman and tells about the highs and lows of his career and the tough decisions that he had to make. And I thought it was a very fair assessment of Truman. And it talks about a lot of stuff in here, from the beginning stages of his career and, his time in World War I and that impact on his career. Getting into politics, he goes into the personal relationship with him and his wife, Bess. It talks about, he doesn't pull any punches. He talks about the racism that existed in Missouri and, with Truman himself in that time period, and gets into, of course, World War II. There's a lot with World War II and the Korean War. And then I thought it was really interesting looking at, after his political career into, up to the point of his death, just looking at his post-career and what he did with that. So anyway, highly recommend this. I would mention one other book that I wanted to put on my list, and I can't find my copy. I don't know what I did with it. I know it's here somewhere, but The Wright Brothers by David McCullough. If I would have found that, we would have had a top 13 list because I really liked that book. But anyway, Truman, that's the one I found, so that's the one I'm going with. Now, these next two books, these are the ones by the same author. This is the only time I did this in the stack, and it is simply because the books go together. So G.J. Meyer wrote this really wonderful history of World War I, A World Undone, the story of the Great War, 1914 to 1918. This was a phenomenal book. I loved this book. Thought it was extremely thorough. It's got a little bit for everybody. It's got, probably half of it is a military history going through the nitty-gritty details. And then the other half is more of a like a snapshot of what's going on, giving context to everything, and more of a social history and showing, with individuals, groups of people, different situations going on. And this book also highlighted Europe. This was from a European perspective. This was not a U.S. dominated thing, and it shouldn't be, because World War I, the U.S. didn't get in till the very end of the war. But so this is a very much a European look at things. But with that said, it doesn't ignore any countries. It does hit all of the countries. And so I really like that. And then the companion, just because, I'm an American history guy, I really like that. I went to his companion novel, A World Remade, America in World War I. So this one specifically centers on the United States during this time, and again, by G.J. Meyer. But this one is focused on the United States, but it attacks it from the same in the same way, where you got half military stuff and then half context. He usually splits the chapter. About 2/3 of it will be, talking about the war, and then 1/3 of it will talk about something with society or a certain individual, or something like that. And very, very good book. If I had to choose one, The World Undone is probably the better one. I really, really enjoyed this. This is one of my all-time favorite reads. If I was to make a top 10 favorite history books, this one's probably going to make the list. I really enjoyed this, but I also liked this one. So highly recommend those if you're studying World War I. All right, so now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're ready for number 8 on the list, and this is another one by one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite biographers. I haven't read all of his stuff, but the stuff that I have read, I have thoroughly enjoyed. And this is Edmund Morris's book on Edison, on Thomas Edison, and he writes this biography in an interesting way. He starts at the point of death and then moves by the decade backwards in his life. Instead of like a typical from birth to death, he goes death to birth. And it's just really good. I thought it was very interesting. I learned a lot on Edison and his, I got to get a sneak peek into all of the places he had his hands in as far as like inventing stuff. Him and his people. I'm not going to give all the credit to him, because his people did quite a bit, and he was credited with that. All right, BookTube, I'm back again. So had to deal with another issue, but we took care of it. Anyway, Edison, highly recommend the book. I thought it was very interesting, and obviously his impact on world history is huge. From I'll just say his most basic one, just so I don't forget an important, like the light bulb, and just all the work that he did, light bulbs, batteries, the movie industry, what he did for recording stuff. Just a ton of influence on things going on in the world. So yeah, Edison, go check that one out by Edmund Morris. Fairly thick book. If you're looking at reading it, it's 783 pages. So it is a thick book, but very worth your time. And it reads easy. Or I thought it did anyway. All right, so another book that I picked up at the very beginning of 2024. I had seen this on, I think it was Vin's channel over at Revenant Reads. Give him a shout out for this one, because I think that's where I heard about this one. The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers by Mary Roach, or I guess Stiff. That's the title, and then the subtitle is The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. It's a biography of dead people. What happens with their bodies. It's a history / science book, and it is extremely interesting. I had originally, when I heard it on Vin's channel, I went and found it on audio at my local library. They had it on the, oh gosh, what's the name of the, well, anyway, where you check out the books. And they had it on audio, and I listened to it. And then this summer, I found it in one of my book hauls, and I was like, yes, I got to have that in my collection. I want to read that again sometime. And so it's, you know, it's got pictures throughout. Not a lot of pictures, but, you know, here and there it's got some. But very good book. Interesting look at the history of what we do with dead bodies. The next one was First Quarter Historathon for 2024 last year. I listened to it on audio, and then I got it for Christmas. And this is The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, A New History of Their Lost World by Steve Brusetti. Thoroughly enjoyed this. I don't have a ton of adult books on dinosaurs. Matter of fact, this may even be the only one now that I'm thinking about it. But this is definitely one of my favorite books that's not about, you know, what I would call your typical history, where, you know, human history. This is more of a, obviously centered around dinosaurs, but the author is an archaeologist, or not an archaeologist, I'm sorry, hang on. He is a paleontologist. Sorry, wrong word. He is a paleontologist, and he talks about his work in the field and all of the, and so he goes through the old discoveries and then links them to the new discoveries, and how, you know, basically a little bit of a history of digging up dinosaur bones and what we've learned from dinosaurs. Thoroughly enjoyed this. If you're like me and you every once in a while you get that big kid issue where you want to look back at look back at your childhood and study more in depth some of those topics that you really, really loved when you were a kid, this is definitely the book for you. So, The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs. Highly recommend that. All right, getting to the last two. All right, so now we've got a biography, and of course I was doing the opening day project with my baseball stuff, and this is one that I started early in the year, but I didn't finish it till late in the year. I had put it down and I came back to it, and it was an excellent biography of Mickey Mantle. This is by Jane Levy, The Last Boy, Mickey Mantle in the End of America's Childhood, and a very personal look at the life of Mickey Mantle, and just the you know, alcoholism and all that, and how that played a role, and his relationship with his father, and how his background affected him as a kid, or as an adult, his life as a kid, and how that affected him as an adult, and just looking at you know, the what ifs of history. That's a really big part of this. You know, looks at his alcohol issues, and then the what ifs. What if he didn't blow his knee out that right there at the beginning of his career, and, you know, cause all of the pain and troubles that he had later on? What if? And so if you are a baseball fan, if you're a New York Yankees fan, if you're a Mickey Mantle fan, you need to read this book. It was very well written, the narrative flows really, really well, and pretty easy to follow, and highly entertaining, I thought. I'm a huge fan of that 1950s and 60s baseball. I just like learning about it. I think it's good. And so now we come to the last book in the top 12 nonfiction books of 2024, and it is Catherine the Great, A Portrait of a Woman by Robert K. Massey. Now, I was reading through Robert K. Massey's books, so I read Peter the Great, and then I read Catherine the Great, and then I read the one, the final chapter, which is about the death of the Romanovs and this, you know, figuring out, did they all die, you know, looking at DNA evidence and stuff. And thoroughly enjoyed all three of those, and hopefully this year I'll be able to get to hang on a second, wait for it. His third book in the 4-book series, Nicholas and Alexandra. That's it. I think it's a portrait of their marriage or something like that. Hopefully I can get to that later this year. But this is my, between this one and Peter the Great, I thought this one was more readable. The Peter the Great was good, don't get me wrong, chock full of a lot of stuff. And I think that all of us that were reading it on the Discord or Voxer, we had a group going, and I think we all probably agreed there was a lot of military stuff in the Peter the Great book, and it kind of, you get bogged down in details. Really good book, don't get me wrong, but it's super thick and you just get bogged down. This one read really fast. You don't get bogged down. It's more of a, you're going with the flow instead of, getting slowed down by everything. You just kind of go with it. And it's not nearly as, it's still big, but it's not nearly as big as the Peter the Great book. And I just thought it read well. It was highly entertaining. I learned a lot. And it's a 625-page book. I learned a lot in this. It's going to help me with my high school class when I teach that next year. And I was just excited to take a look at this. And so BookTube. That is my top 12 nonfiction books of the year 2024, the best of 2024. So you tell me what you think down in the comments section. Have you read these? Did you like them, not like them? What was your top book, your top nonfiction book of 2024? Let me know. Love to talk with you. And then hopefully later today, my plan is to get all my comment sections caught up on my videos. I started that, was it yesterday, I think? I did a whole bunch of them, and hopefully I can finish that off today and get completely caught up and include the comments from this video. So look forward to talking to you. And thank you for watching. Thank you for spending some time with me. I hope that you have a good day and great time reading today. So until next time, happy reading.